We've had our disagreements, but we are friends, and I would say for 95% of the time we've known each other, we've been friends.
I bet that 5% was rough, though, knowing both of you.
It was a little rough. Yeah, things got a little bumpy at one point, and I think I have more tolerance for risk than Peter does. So I was sort of maybe more kind of pedal to the metal, and Peter was like, well, let's be a little cautious here. He may have been right, actually.
A, is that characterization correct? Do you think he is a bigger risk taker than you? And B, is he also perhaps right that your way is probably more sensible?
I certainly would never want to bet against Elon. I would never want to compete head on with Elon. And probably a lot of what he says is correct. Certainly the Silicon Valley perspective on Elon in the 2000s was that he was starting these two crazy companies. There was Tesla, the car company, and SpaceX, the rocket company. They both sounded super crazy. If only one of them had succeeded, one might still have said that it was just extraordinarily lucky. The fact that to first approximation both have succeeded, have wildly succeeded. I always want to say it tells us something that Elon knows something about risk the rest of us don't. So there's some way it looks like it's this high wire crazy risk taking act, and somehow somehow you can't have two companies succeed in such an extraordinary way without actually really not taking as many crazy risks as it looks. And so I don't know. There's the conversation I've had with Elon is what did you know about how do you understand risk in ways that the rest of us don't? And then I think there's something he understands about it we don't. It's hard to articulate. I don't know if he can articulate it, but that's sort of where I'm at today.
He has I met him for the first time in France this summer, and he did a little Q&A on a boat for about 15 of us, and then I had about an hour with him afterwards. Utterly fascinating just to be exposed to his brain close up like that. He was talking about colonizing Mars and why we had to do this and how it would be done. He talked about Neuralink, he talked about humanoid robots. It was just one after another of these enormous big picture things, all of which I concluded as I was hearing them, he comes from a place, it seems to me, he just wants to save the planet from itself, really. And he kind of has a brain that can get his head around this big picture stuff, but in relation to the risk, it just strikes me he's just prepared to back himself in a way of sort of chilling self-confidence, the like of which actually, Trump is one of the only people I've seen who has a similar sort of unbelievably thick skin and self-confidence to do that, which is what you need, because there are so many people out there when you do this stuff who want to knock you down.
Yes, that's certainly correct, and there probably are all sorts of ways that one can critique Trump, or one can critique President Trump, or critique Elon. There are all sorts of things where it seems hard to know how to get it to work, and the anti-arguments are probably pretty good arguments, but they're also disabling, and they mean you will never do it. So, the challenge with going to Mars or even to the moon is that you have to make sure, in some ways you're creating, a escape valve for humanity. There's some way, if we completely mess up this planet, we'll have a backup. And then, of course, the risk is that you will just replicate all the bad governance structures we have on this planet elsewhere. And if you think only about the science and the technology, you will maybe not straightforwardly solve this political problem that he's in part thinking about. So there's sort of all sorts of critiques one can have like this. There was a conversation Demis, the DeepMind AI person, had with Elon back in 2013, where Demis told Elon, I'm working on the most important problem in the world. I'm building a superhuman AI. And then Elon responded, well, I'm working on the most important problem in the world. I'm turning humanity into interplanetary species. And then, Demis responded, well, my AI will be able to follow you to Mars. And then, in some ways, Demis won that particular exchange. And I want to say there's something important about the argument, but then on some level, it can't just be on that level, and you actually just have to do things and make things happen and build things, and that's the orientation Elon always has.
What do you make about him and Vivek Ramaswamy getting stuck into government bureaucracy and waste?
Well, the strong consensus view in the DC establishment is that this is going to go nowhere, that it's just absolutely impossible to fix things, and this is, it's going to be sort of a very, very frustrating dead end. And again, maybe, I'm not sure it's a contrarian view, but the alternate view I would say is, you should never bet against Elon. And isn't there, we all know there's an extraordinary amount of waste, and it is unsustainable. And the 6% of GDP deficits that the U.S. has cannot be sustained. They probably cannot even be sustained for, even the rest of this decade. And if this election stands for the proposition, there are two ways to resolve them. You can cut spending and cut waste, or you can raise taxes massively. And I take this election in the U.S. for standing for the proposition we're not going to go the European-style socialist route of having massive tax hikes. And then that suggests, you need to try something like the Doge thing, and that's actually what is going to happen.
And do you think?
And again, maybe we're in a very different moment from 5 years ago, pre-COVID. I think the statistic is something like 94% of the federal government workers are working from home. And what people learned in Silicon Valley, where you had remote work for 1 or 2 years, was remote work was not working. When people didn't come into the office, they weren't working. And initially, it was a sign of how powerful the workers were. They could insist on not working. And then after 2 years, the companies just fired a bunch of these people and reasserted control, because you realize, wow, there were all these people we hired and they're not working, and it doesn't matter, and we can just get rid of them. And isn't that the lesson that we should draw from these 4 or 5 years of the government workers not working? That not that they have to necessarily come back to the office, but maybe we don't need them altogether. And so I think we sort of knew this was the case in 2019. We really know it in 2024, and so there is sort of a natural rationality to what Elon is doing, and it's at the point where it's obvious to you, and it's obvious to me, and it's obvious to lots of people, and it's obvious to all of us that it's obvious to everybody else. At some point, you can get a preference cascade, and maybe something can really break here.
He hinted that you and he had largely had a pretty good relationship, but it had its odd wobble. You've got him and Trump, obviously two gigantic figures with healthy egos. A lot of people thinking this can't last, they're bound to fall out, there's going to be a clash. What do you think? What's your read of that relationship?
I don't know. Again, there are all these ways you're tempted to read it in these sort of soap opera terms, where we're focused on the larger than life personalities, and how is there room for two of these people on the same planet, or you can ask all these sorts of questions. But I think if we take a non-soap opera view and go back to the substance and the real problems we have, there's plenty of work for them to do. There's plenty of them to focus on. They are, in some sense, they both have a common enemy in the zombie establishment, the stagnation, the sense that nothing's been working for quite some time, and I don't think that enemy is going to go away anytime soon.
Has the president-elect offered you a job yet?
I'm not able to, I'm not going to do anything on a full-time basis. One can do things like, what Elon is doing. You can't go full-time into government if you've been in a tech position like I have. It's just the sort of things you have to be realistic about what you can and can't do.
But is there an Elon style
it's also,
role?
Look, it's not. It's just not my area of comparative advantage. I think politics is very important. It's also I would find it deeply frustrating. I'd go out of my mind if I spent all my time doing about it. So I think it's super important. I enjoy going on your show, thinking about it every now and then. If I spent my whole life thinking about this, man, I'd be depressed and crazy.
Going back to sort of where we're at the moment, I know that you've been heavily involved in a lot of meetings over the last month or so. How much, having been on every side of the fence and above it and inside of it, how much governmental efficiency is there to improve on, in your opinion?
Oh, like absolutely enormous, and it's actually interesting in that this actually historically this is actually a bipartisan question, and I actually think that the Vivek and Elon are looking at it in a very bipartisan way, and you may have already seen there are already some Democrats signing up for the Doge Congressional Caucus, and coming out. Even Bernie Sanders, to his credit, came out and said he certainly agrees with Elon and Vivek, specifically on the topic of military spending, which is of course one of the big areas. And so that's that's significant. So it historically is a bipartisan topic. When I was younger, I mentioned the sort of Clinton-Gore comeback in '92. This was actually a big theme of the Clinton-Gore campaign in '92, and actually Al Gore, who I know, I've known over the years. Al Gore actually had a whole program like the Doge, actually at the time called REGO, REGO, called Reinventing Government. And he said many of the same things that actually Elon and Vivek are saying today. And he had this famous, he made it famous at the time. You find it on YouTube. There's this famous thing he did to kind of visualize this, which is he went on the David Letterman show at the time, and he took out, it was like the Department of Defense was like buying like $600 shatterproof ashtrays. He took them onto the Letterman show with a chisel, and safety glasses, and gave it a big whack, and of course it fractures just like any other ashtray. So there was a whole program around that. They made a little bit of progress. So anyway, I think everybody effectively agrees that there's who doesn't want tax money to be spent efficiently? Who doesn't want to get results? Who doesn't want to eliminate waste and fraud? Like these are kind of these are those are hard things to argue against. In terms of methods, the big change here is that we've never, in the past, these have been government officials trying to figure this out, or commissions or whatever.
Some may say the blind leading the blind.
Some may say participants in the system attempting to reform the system from within, let's say. And this, of course, what's starkly different here is to have people of the caliber of Elon and Vivek, who are tremendously accomplished entrepreneurs and founders, and people who run businesses, and people who understand how to do things that, like, and Elon. Vivek's obviously very smart on all this, but Elon is legendary for being able to think, as he says, think from first principles on things like costs. And if you read the books about him, he's always focused on that. And so he's going to bring a toolkit that has been, very successfully deployed at some of the world's leading, literally some of the world's leading companies like Tesla and SpaceX. And he's going to bring that to the government for the first time.
How is Elon so productive? Have you ever deconstructed this?
So actually, I've known Elon for a long time. I didn't work with him for a very long time. Just we were working on different things. But I've been working with him quite closely for the last couple of years, starting with the X acquisition, and then we've also invested in XAI and in SpaceX. And so we now work on three companies together to different degrees, and now the government stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's basically he has an operating method that he's developed that I would say is very unusual by modern standards. I'm not aware of another current CEO who operates the way that he does, and I think probably the single biggest kind of question in all of business right now is why don't more CEOs operate the way that he does? And it's a complicated question we could talk about. But if you go back in history, you find characters more like him. And so especially like the industrialists of the late 1800s, early 1900s, people like Henry Ford or Andrew Carnegie or Thomas Watson, who built IBM. If you go back and read the biographies of people like that, Andrew Mellon, those guys, Cornelius Vanderbilt, like those guys ran very similar to the way that Elon runs things. And it's just this like the top line thing is just this incredible devotion from the leader of the company to fully, deeply understand what the company does and to be, completely knowledgeable about every aspect of it and to be in the trenches and talking directly to the people who do the work, deeply understanding the issues and, being the lead problem solver in the organization. And basically what Elon does is he shows up every week at each of his companies. He identifies the biggest problem that the company's having that week and he fixes it. Right. And then he does that every week for 52 weeks in a row. And then each of his companies has solved the 52 biggest problems that year, like in that year. And, most other large companies are still having the planning meeting for the pre-planning meeting, for the board meeting, for the presentation, for the this, for the, with the compliance review and the legal review. And he's just like, it's this level of both like incredible intellectual capability coupled with incredible force of personality, moral authority, execution capability, focus on fundamentals. That is just like really amazing to watch. And then, by the way, the side effect of it is he attracts many of the best people in the world to work with him. Because if you work with Elon, like the expectations are through the roof in terms of your level of performance, and he is going to know who you are, and he is going to know what you've done, and he's going to know what you've done this week, and he's going to know if you're underperforming, and he may fire you in the meeting if you're not carrying your weight. But if you are as committed to the company as he is and working hard and capable, many people who have worked for him say that they had the best experience of their lives when they were working for him. And so then there's this attraction thing, and that's why I think his company's compound the way they do is because of this, they just keep bringing.
They're a black hole that sucks in the best talent. If you're the best in the world, you want to work harder than anybody else, come here.
That's right. And people look at this from the outside and they're like, how can people tolerate, all the criticisms, how can they tolerate this guy and da-da-da-da-da. And inside the company, people are like, finally, I get to work for somebody who's...
Yeah.
Somebody gets it. Somebody, there's a famous line. Somebody used to work in one of the other aerospace companies and went to work at SpaceX and said, he was asked what it was like. And he said, it's like being dropped into a shocking zone of competence. Right. It's exactly your point. Like everybody around me is like so absolutely competent. And look, most of us never have that experience. Most people are never in an organization where like the bar is held that high. And as a consequence, the competence level is so high and stays so high and even rises over time. And again, to his massive credit, he has been able to do that repeatedly.
So detail oriented, focusing on everything from A to Z in terms of the business, sort of intimately familiar with it, and prepared to get his hands dirty from I will get in there and actually look at solving the problem myself. So is that, that suggests to me, although this can't be the case because you couldn't run this many companies if you were doing it this way, there may be some challenges in learning when to delegate, when to hand off tasks, because in order to get that level of resolution, to be able to see things with that much finitude, you also need to spend a lot of time on it. And then if you're solving the problems, how do you choose the problems that are yours to solve and the problems that aren't, so on and so forth. So that must be a challenge, delineating between what is my problem to solve and what is somebody else's.
Yeah, so I would say most leaders, like most CEOs we work with, have exactly that problem for exactly the reasons you described. I think the Elon method is a little bit different, and I don't know if he'd agree with this, but the way I think about it is he actually delegates almost everything. Like he's not involved in most of the things that his companies are doing. He's involved in the thing that is the biggest problem right now until that thing is fixed. And then he doesn't have to be involved in it anymore. And then he can go focus on the next thing that's the biggest problem for that company right now. So like for example, in manufacturing, there's this concept of the bottleneck, right? And so in any manufacturing chain, there's always some bottleneck. There's always something that is keeping the manufacturing line from running the way that it's supposed to. And sometimes the bottleneck is at the beginning of the process. It's like we can't get enough raw material. Sometimes the bottleneck is at the end of the process. We don't have enough warehouses for the finished product, or the bottleneck might be somewhere in the middle. And if you run a manufacturing company, there's always a bottleneck. Whatever the bottleneck is holding everything up, and the job number one is to remove that bottleneck and get everything flowing again. And I think he basically has universalized that concept, and he basically looks at every company like it's some sort of conceptual assembly line, sometimes a literal assembly line, making cars and rockets, and basically any given week there's a bottleneck. There's guaranteed to be the main bottleneck. There's going to be one thing that's going to be the thing that's holding people back. And so the answer to your question, the resolution of the paradox is I'm going to micromanage the solution of that. I don't need to manage everything else because everything else by definition is running better than that, right? And so I can go focus on that. The other part of it that is so compelling, and this is where I think a lot of especially non-technical CEOs would really struggle to implement the method, is he really, when he identifies the bottleneck, he goes and he talks to the line engineers who understand the technical nature of the bottleneck. And if that's people on a manufacturing line, he's talking to people directly on the line, or if that's people in a software development group, he's talking to the people actually writing the code. Right. So he's not asking the VP of engineering to ask the director of engineering to ask the manager to ask the individual contributor to write a report for, that's to be reviewed in 3 weeks. He doesn't do that. He would throw them all out of the window. There's just no way he would do that. What he does is he goes and personally finds the engineer who actually has the knowledge about the thing. And then he sits in the room with that engineer and fixes the problem with them. Right. And again, this is why he inspires such incredible loyalty from the especially the technical people who he works with, which is they're just like, wow, if I'm up against a problem I don't know how to solve, freaking Elon Musk is going to show up.
I can call on the guy that owns the company.
Elon Musk is going to show up in his Gulfstream and he's going to sit with me overnight in front of the keyboard or in front of the manufacturing line, and he's going to help me figure this out.
Wow.
Right. And so it's like, how do you possibly and this is the thing. It's like, okay, you're like a normal CEO running a normal company. Like, how can you possibly compete with that?
What are the other reasons that CEOs of similar companies or comparable companies don't do that? Technical understanding, I get that you need to be able to get your hands dirty from a specificity perspective, but what else?
Yeah, so that's a lot. That is a lot of it, and that's a topic that makes people really mad because non-technical people really hate being told that they are not qualified to do something because they're not technical. But every now and then, the technical details actually do matter. So there's a whole domain there, and most managers, it's like most people in government are lawyers. Most people in business and in senior levels are MBAs. And so there's a most large companies are not run by engineers, right? They're run by trained business people, and so increasingly also lawyers. And so there is a real challenge there. And then I just think more generally, it's just the way that management is taught, and most classically in the form of something like a Harvard Business School or Stanford Business School, it's basically management as it was sort of developed and implemented, I would say, in like the 1950s, 60s, 70s. It was sort of the so-called scientific school of management. And so it's basically management as a generic skill that you can apply to any industry. And you could manage a soup company, or you can manage whatever kind of company, and they're kind of all the same, and it kind of doesn't matter what they do. And there's a common set of management practices, and it has is a lot to do. It's process. It's how do you structure how do you manage the balance sheet? How do you set the review schedule for the meetings? How do you do compliance? How do you hire? How do you manage how do you hire and motivate executives? How do you resolve interpersonal conflicts? Like all these like general business skills. And by the way, those general business skills are very useful in lots of contexts. It's just that training doesn't give you any of the that training gives you none of what you need to go do what Elon does. And then Elon I would say he pushes it as far as he can, and not doing all the stuff that you're classically trained to do, so that he can spend all of his time doing the things that only he can do, which it turns out has this incredible, catalytic multiplicative effect where his companies are, so just incredibly amazing. Elon just said this thing at the most recent Tesla event that blew my mind. Because his companies are famous. They don't actually have like marketing departments. Like Tesla doesn't spend any money on sales and marketing. Like they don't sell the cars. Like every other car company in the world is like running all these ad campaigns all the time, TV commercials and the newspaper flyers and the quarterly sales events and like all this crazy stuff and promotions, all these things. Like Tesla doesn't do any of that. It's just like it's the best car, and you just like show up and buy it or not. It's up to you. You're a moron if you don't, right? Like it's a very straightforward thing.
My dad went to go and test drive a Model S maybe a couple of years ago. And he's sort of an old school car guy, and he's used to the sort of banter back and forth, the forecourt, the discussion. Please sit down. Would you like a coffee? Would you like, what is that? And he said that he walked in and it felt like he'd gone into an Apple store, and there was some, as he called it, teenager in a hoodie that came out, and my dad started to do the whole like classic boomer parent negotiation thing. And this guy was like, the price is the price. And I don't have any fucking coffee for you. So he left feeling like this is the new world, and now he has a Range Rover. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, do you want the best car in the world or not? Right? Like that's Elon's mentality, right? And it's working very well. And then he at this event, he took it to the next level. And this broke my brain, and I'm still thinking about it. He said, if you think about it, he said the best product in the world shouldn't even need a logo. Like, you shouldn't even have to have your name on the product.
People can just identify it from how good it is.
It's just obvious. It's just obvious. He did right. It's just obvious. Everybody knows because it's the best product in the world. Everybody has it. Everybody uses it. And like, of course, you don't need to put the name on it. Everybody knows, right? And so and for a minute, I was like, all right, is this like a Zen, thing that I need to think about? and then I was like, no, he's actually, as usual with Elon, it's like, no, he's actually serious. The best product in the world would not need your name on it. Yeah. And so anyway, so it's just this like completely different it's just this completely different method, and then on top of that, to have the guy who's on top of his game, to as you said, to kind of be working on the government challenge, and then to be to have the new for whatever people think of the new president, pros and cons, like to have him fully signed up, embracing Elon and encouraging him to do this is a really, I mean, this has not. You have to go back, like literally the last time something like this happened in the United States government was literally like 1933. This is the closest analogy to what at least has started to happen is literally what happened under FDR, which is just like a fundamental reinvention of how government works, and like this massive influx of talent from the private sector that is able to just like do things that are unimagined. And so it's a once in an 80 years thing. I'm doing everything I can to help, and I hope it goes
pouring some kerosene onto the fire as you are.
Well, Elon's the coolest. He's my favorite billionaire. That dude's wild. He's a wild boy. I will buy Teslas as long as they sell them, just to support that dude.
Just to keep Twitter going.
And they're dope. But yeah, just to support him, man. You God damn it, you need an Elon Musk in this world. You need a wild boy. You need a dude who's got $200 billion who dunks on people.
Dude, how great was watching him realize in real time how stupid Don Lemon is?
Oh my God.
Like, you could actually see on his face as he's asking the questions, and he's like, well, if you lower standards, then you're going to get more incompetence. And Don Lemon's like, so you're saying black people aren't competent? And he's like, no, that's not. And he slowly starts to realize, like, oh, I have 80 IQ points on this guy.
It's not just that. He said a very important point. He said that Don Lemon was doing CNN outside of CNN. Yep. And you don't have to do that. You just don't. Nobody wants that anymore.
I'd say you can't do that. It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. But more importantly, you shouldn't do it because it's not good for you. Just be a human. Don't be this thing, this journalistic probing bullshit thing that's trying to spin a narrative. This one wild genius dude decides to buy Twitter.
Isn't it amazing?
Amazing. If he didn't do that, we would genuinely be in a real pickle.
Honestly, Twitter or X now is really where I get like all my news. Like, I don't even resort to a lot of the mainstream media places, at least for breaking news. Like, I'll find it on X. So God bless Elon Musk. I really think that he has almost single-handedly really turned this culture around. So God bless him.
He's definitely made it take a turn. And for anybody who thinks that's exaggerating, you have to take into consideration that is not a business move that any corporation that wants to make money would have approved.
No.
If you're Elon Musk, you can do it. But there's like maybe 5 of those guys on Earth that could just buy something for $44 billion.
That's crazy.
That's really probably worth half that.
Right.
So you could never justify it on paper.
No.
So he's an insane person.
He is.
Who's dedicated to free speech, who just happens to have $200 billion. So he can step in and do that. And when they tell him about advertising, that was one of my favorite speeches ever. He was like, go yourself.
Isn't that awesome?
It was amazing.
It was perfect.
If you're gonna blackmail me with money, you're gonna do that. Go f yourself.
It's amazing.
And then he goes, "Hi, Bob."
It's hilarious.
Also, he's smarter than everybody. So
he's rich.
He sees where all this is going. He's like, you people are out of your minds. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
So he literally has to step in and buy a social media platform, and then upon doing so, they release all these emails to these journalists like Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi, and you find out through all this that they've been in contact with the FBI, and the FBI's been telling them to delete accounts and get rid of posts. And
my account was deleted prior to the Elon Musk era. But I was able to make a new account under
With
Elon Musk's Twitter.
Yeah, luckily.
And it's the only platform that I found where I don't get my videos or posts removed.
He goes in, man.
It's really interesting to see how political he's gotten, and that immediately upon being, because he was the darling of the left and the right. The left, obviously, for the cars, right?
Yeah.
But the right, because he's a successful businessman, right?
Yeah.
And the second he takes a position politically, he is chastised, shamed, ridiculed. And even before that, think about it. Everybody was invested in Tesla because the stock was going crazy. So not only are you the darling, you're making me money.
Right.
I want you to be great.
Yeah.
Once you're making people money, they don't want to write bad shit about you.
Yeah.
Especially they got $1 million invested in Tesla.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ridicule this guy and watch half of my money go away.
Yeah.
And the second he opened his mouth about politics,
And the thing is, he snaps back at people.
he goes.
Which is crazy.
He goes.
Bro, he dunks on people.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, but I'm also just like, don't you got some science to do? Get off
how
Twitter.
are you doing this?
Yeah.
I don't understand how he does any of it.
AI, dude. He created another Elon.
Maybe he is. Maybe he's AI.
But what he's done with Twitter or X is really interesting.
I call it Twitter.
Yeah, it's hard for me to change. Well,
Because it is an X that you made, or is it a tweet? Did you tweet something?
it's a tweet.
I tweeted it.
Yeah, it's Twitter.
It's kind of funny though because it is X.
Yeah, but it's Twitter.
But it's Twitter.
But like the idea that he is going to uphold this soapbox for free speech despite having some awful things said, the greater outcome will be hopefully a civil society where ideas can permeate freely.
He may have very well saved
That
humanity in some way. I don't know how happy Elon is, but I know he laughs a lot. Like I've been around that dude a lot, and he's always laughing about it. He's clearly under an extreme amount of pressure. He's clearly a high performer, but he seems to be enjoying a lot of it.
Did you see his interview recently with Lex? I think it was maybe 4 months ago.
No, I didn't.
So on that, there's a really interesting point where Lex is asking him basically what it's like to be Elon.
Yeah.
And Elon says, most people think they would want to be me, but they do not want to be me. My mind is a storm. They don't know. They don't understand.
He said that to me too. Yeah.
It's apocalyptic and terrifying. We spoke about this last time, Tiger Woods, the price that people pay to be the person that you admire.
Right.
And, Tiger Woods goes through this really difficult period with his father and all the rest of it. And this is the best remedy for envy that I can think of. Because people look at Elon as this dude who's sending rockets to Mars and he's making the coolest cars on the planet and he's on stage in Japan or China or whatever doing weird robot dances and he's super rich. And you go, you don't know the price that he's had to pay for that. You don't know the internal texture of someone's mind. Your heroes aren't gods. They're just regular people who probably got good at one thing by sacrificing literally everything else.
Yeah, he's not a normal guy.
you can't be.
He's a very, very unusual person. And when you talk to him, you can tell, like in the back of his brain, his mind is just firing. It's just going all. Like I asked him, I'm like, what is it like to be you? Like, what is it like to have all these? He's like, you wouldn't want to be me.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't seem happy.
He didn't even know that it wasn't normal until he was like an older kid. And he's like, oh, everybody's not like this? Where you just got ideas just bouncing around your head like laser beams, just constantly go. I mean, the guy's running 3 different companies simultaneously, or 4 different companies simultaneously.
I think at a time he was doing like 5 or 6 too. It's something crazy.
Insane. It's like buys Twitter,
Yeah.
posts on it all the time, dunks on people, posts memes, gets people mad at him, and then is also running SpaceX and is also running Tesla and is also running the Boring Company. Like, what the man?
It's having similar characteristics of like a degenerate gambler to be that successful in business like that, because you have to be willing to go all in all the time.
Well, he's one of the very few people that's like the head of a business like that. That's also, he's an extraordinary human in terms of like the way his mind functions. It's not a normal person.
No way. No, you don't get to that level.
It's interesting to me that people don't seem to understand the value and importance of a guy like Elon, who's this wild billionaire character who likes to dunk on people. Like that guy being like, did you see that thing that he posted the other day? Because there's one of the guys who's like from Facebook, I believe, said that what Elon is doing is corruption on like an Enron level, I think he compared it to. So Elon posted a photo of a dog laying its balls on another dog's head. And
I did not see this.
it was like dunking on this dude. I'm like, how wild is this guy? And then someone said, did you really spend $44 billion on Twitter so you can dunk on people? And he writes 100%. He's like,
I don't know how he has time for this. I mean,
don't get it. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
and
he
do
does.
everything else that he's doing.
He's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
I mean, his brain is a fucking tornado of information just flying around all the time. And I think it helps him to be able to just fuck around and be silly.
Yeah.
But he was the only one that recognized that there's a real problem if you have the entire narrative being controlled by one ideology through all the social media apps.
Yes.
And that's what's going on.
Exactly.
When I talk to Elon Musk, I'm very aware how dumb I am.
Really?
Yes. When I talk to Lex Friedman, when I talk to
But
Eric
if you
Weinstein,
talk to Elon about emotions and human
makes me
interaction,
uncomfortable.
if you talk to Elon about emotions and human interaction, probably you're much smarter than him.
He's not dumb in that regard. He's a different kind of human, man. Like, that's an unusual combination of characteristics. He likes to make jokes. He takes a picture of Bill Gates and then he puts it next to a pregnant man emoji and it says, here's a quick way to lose your boner. Yeah. Or if you want to lose your boner really quick. That's what he said. He posts that!
Yeah.
He's the richest man in the world and he's dunking on other billionaires.
I love that. No,
you
I
gotta
love that.
celebrate that.
I love Elon.
And he loves that nature of the internet. And the thing that bothers him is this idea that like one gatekeeper can dictate whether or not something gets released into the whole world. If you're using something like Twitter, like you could have an amazing story and they can block it if ideologically they disagree with it. Like that's what happened with that Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah.
What happened with that?
Well, they decided to say that it was Russian disinformation and that you couldn't share the links on Twitter or Facebook.
Twitter said that.
Yeah, Twitter would not let you share the links. And the link is from a story in the New York Post, which is really kind of crazy because that's like one of the oldest newspapers in America.
Hamilton.
It's a long established newspaper and they wouldn't let you post. It's not like some wild ass website,
Right.
you know, some weird, it might not be a real website. It was fucking New York Post. And so when something like a Twitter has the ability to just tell you what you can and can't talk about.
Yeah.
Even if that thing is valid, even if that thing, well, what if it does legitimately, I don't know what the fuck is in his laptop, but what if it does legitimately point to corruption? Are we supposed to just ignore it? I think what's going on now is like they want someone to be 100% compliant to whatever ideology they're a part of. And any deviation of that is problematic. Whether it's because they think, like I saw an article that said Elon Musk donated $150 million to some charity and they called him a cheapskate.
It's hilarious.
How hilarious is that?
Well, wait till they see when I'm a billionaire. Talk about get ready for this cheapskate.
I think back on his statements. I don't think they were particularly insensitive. I think they were just, you know, it was more of like a factual bluntness to the way he discusses things, because he's a numbers guy. He looks at things in terms of equations. He's trying to put people on Mars. You know what I mean?
By global standards, sure.
Bro, you're killing it.
By
Shut your
global
mouth.
standards, I'm on Elon Musk level.
I mean,
That's
I'm
true.
poor compared to Elon.
That is true. You are broke.
I'm so broke.
Do you think he laughs about you, like when you're not there?
Yes.
He's like,
that poor little bastard.
He goes, I got Rogan coming over to the house. Put away the good china. Because, oh God, the Rogans are coming.
There's levels of people. I'm friends now. This is a bizarre thing to say, with multiple billionaires.
Yeah.
I know multiple guys that are billionaires. And they're very nice people. They're very nice, and I can see how it happens.
It's hard when you're doing stuff that is this complicated to predict exactly how long it's going to take. So, you know, we end up often falling a little bit behind, but we do our best.
That's the case, though, with everything that's that crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially with Elon, he's never right in his predictions. All his wacky inventions, they're always a little off.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
he's such an unusual human. Very few people that you could make any kind of rational comparison to, other than maybe Nikola Tesla. Will you really stop and think what he's done?
Yeah.
And the fact that he does them all simultaneously, that he's involved in the Boring Project, he's involved in Tesla and SpaceX all simultaneously. And Tesla home solar, all the solar panels and the making solar tiles for roofs, and he's doing so many different things at the same time. It's almost impossible. Like I don't understand how he does it.
Yeah, I've seen him do it, and I still don't understand it. I don't know how he does it, to be honest.
Well, he's the next stage of humanity.
Yeah.
If people are evolving, he's like looking at us from the next spot. He's like, hey guys, I've got some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an idea factory, and his ability to do that across all the different technologies that go into rockets and cars and everything else he does, that's what really impresses me.
Well, also the lack of burnout, because he's been doing it at this incredible rate, 16 hours a day for how long?
His whole life, I think.
That's nuts.
I know.
And he's still hungry for it. And he's still taking on these new projects and new ideas. And, I'm very happy he exists,
Yeah.
But it's just very confusing to me. I just feel so stupid when I'm around him, the conversations I've had with him, like, God, I'm dumb.
No.
You gotta do what you gotta do with what you got.
I won't go that far.
So his ultimate goal is to create some sort of a colony on Mars, but he believes that this technology will continue to expand to the point where we will be leaving our solar system. We will be making human trips into other solar systems, into actual deep space.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, hopefully that's, at some point, if we're going to survive, you take the really long view, the solar system's not going to last forever.
Right.
It's going to last plenty long. And if my kids are listening at home, don't worry.
They're freaking out right now, especially a 2-year-old.
Oh,
Oh, no, Daddy said we're going to die.
No, we got plenty of time.
Couple billion years, kids. Relax. It's not in our lifetime.
We're kind of going down the road of making this place uninhabitable.
Well, what we need is someone like Elon who concentrates on the solutions. I mean, he's obviously got a full plate, many full plates, but someone like him to concentrate on solutions to some of the environmental problems that we've created for ourselves here.
Well, that was the thought behind Tesla. I mean, so Tesla's kind of like plan A, save this planet, and SpaceX is kind of plan B, if you look at it that way.
It's so weird to have a guy like that amongst us.
Yeah, what's going on with was a Neuralink, the company where he's making the chips that go in your head.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's the other thing he does.
That one.
He's changing the way humans interface with data. They're going to put wires in your head. Yeah. Right? That's the idea behind it.
That's the idea.
Christ. It's probably going to be inevitable. Once it happens, I mean, I don't want to be an early adopter, but once it does happen, and it really does remarkably increase your ability to interface with data, because that's the idea, right? So it ramps up the bandwidth in which people can access ideas and information. It's going to change the way we interface.
Look what Elon's going through right now.
I was going to talk to you about this, yeah.
I mean, if you look at what Elon's going through right now, who the hell wants to be Elon? Why would you? I mean, think about it right now. Imagine you got $245 billion right now.
Yeah.
You're worth $300 billion. You're going to go buy Twitter and be the most hated man in America.
What is your take on it?
First of all, heroes, depending on the levels of hero, are born based on tension. If there is tension, there's resistance, and you stand up, then you're a hero. So the more the resistance, the bigger the hero. Okay? They're trying to tarnish, destroy his reputation at the highest level. And he's standing up saying, go F yourself. And says, yeah, Bob. When he says Bob, you know who he's talking about.
Disney CEO.
Bob Iger, Disney CEO, right? You're seeing guys like Elon inspiring others to say, I want to have a backbone. You just saw Connor right now saying, what are you doing to my country? This is when you're starting to see, hey, I like the fact that you got pride in what you're doing. I like the fact that you got pride in certain values and principles that you got going on. And Elon's definitely got that. If Elon doesn't buy Twitter, you think YouTube would have been looser today? YouTube would have been tighter today. What Elon did with Twitter, he opened up the floodgates for everybody. 2 companies. Spotify not dropping Rogan.
Yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Elon buying Twitter. And I would even put Rumble in there with what Chris is doing.
Right.
These 3 companies got everybody to be like, whoa, we have competition now, guys. We can no longer bully.
We can't just control.
We can't.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Why did Elon say, go F yourself? Let me say it one more time. Go F yourself, right? Why did he say that? Because he has money. He doesn't need your money. He doesn't need advertisers' money. So he has put himself in a position to not need the advertisers' money, so he can't say that. Now, flip it, okay? If your name is...
But do you think Elon could sustain Twitter without advertisers' money?
Well, here's this is going to be a great case study, by the way. There's a big risk to it, right?
Yeah.
So the greatest risk to it is the people that support what Elon is doing, they have to keep him in business. If you support what Elon is doing, you got to support him financially. You got to support him by defending him. You got to support him by making sure that he makes it, the company makes it. That's what customers have to do. What's happened with Disney? You know what people have said with Disney? I'm canceling my membership.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So this is what happens when you forget who the customer is. You make some mistakes. And Elon is trying to say, this is who I am. So the people who respect his boldness have to jump in there and say, how can I help you? How can I support you? Like, imagine how many kids Elon is inspiring. Like, we don't even know the next layer of 50,000 Elons that are, I'm going to be Elon, I'm going to be Elon. Think about what they're going to be doing. We're not going to see that for 20 years.
Yeah.
So the point is, these guys that are standing up, they're inspiring an entire different generation of people. But Elon also needs the backing from the people who support him to also defend him. That's how we show support to a certain value and principle that we're about as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, I love what he's done. I love what he's doing.
We need to talk more like Elon. Dana gets up there and says, go F yourself, go this. Like, yeah, backbone. Stand up and say no to some of the money. Elon's got 160 million followers on Twitter. We started telling other people, this guy's a freaking badass. We used to only tell 3 people about Elon. Then it went to 20 people about Elon. Now it's like to everybody. What happened? Because he went like this.
Yeah.
And we said, dude, I got your back. You're my kind of a guy, right? So that mindset, Bradley, is freaking liberating because you're going to find your gang, your army of people that are like-minded like you that are going to make you feel safe and say, I'm not the only crazy one here. There's other people like me.
Yeah.
The profile of an Elon Musk, okay, is anti-authority. Don't tell me what to do. You can't tell the profile of an Elon Musk of what to do. You can't do it. However, the good and the bad and the ugly comes with it because if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. If he's got a real enemy, you don't need to worry about him destroying his enemy. He's going to destroy his enemy because no one's more obsessed about it than him. And by the way, I'm telling you, today he's above Trump.
Why do you say that?
Because he has more power today than Trump does. Today, he's ahead of Trump. When we did our top media, ranking for Vitamin, Rob, if you can pull it up, we put a top 50 most influential media names in media, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you type in, you'll see Vitamin, this one right here. If you guys haven't gone through this list, and we went from, and by the way, it was some of the names we had on the list, people are like, wow, media to me doesn't mean you're going to like them or disagree with them. I think we start off with number 50 being, keep going through it. I think it's Como 50, and then it goes all the way down. And you can see all these names that we have here. Look at the names we got. Left, right, center, doesn't matter. You hate, you love, it's going to be there, right? But go all the way down to number 1. Yeah, Elon Musk is number 1.
Yeah.
Ahead of Trump today. Okay. So when you are enemy of the state number 1, you have targets, you have threats, you have more cameras, all eyes on you, and they're just looking at something. So imagine if a judge is able to use this and go to SEC and say you are no longer capable of being the CEO and the chairman of the board of X. Now who loses? You lose. You don't want that. And so the same guidelines that apply to an employee at Tesla, at SpaceX applies to the founder because you're an employee.
Yeah.
I may be the founder. I'm still an employee. So those guidelines don't get somebody to say, well, you can get away with it because it doesn't do that. So I'm just talking like a board member is what I'm talking about, and the mindset of a founder that doesn't like authority telling them what to do. I'm just saying you have to be a little bit careful because you're extra targeted.
No, and I understand that, but my point is though, I go back to the why, and the why is, and you nailed it,
It's because he's such a threat, because he's letting us speak. He's letting us see the stories, and you nailed it.
Yeah.
He is a freaking threat.
Don't give them another. They're gonna already make a bunch of shit up about you. They're already gonna defame you. They're already gonna do character assassination. They already hate you.
Yes.
Don't give them additional ammunition.
Twitter, ran by Elon Musk, will be $1 trillion company within 3 to 5 years. And that's the latest, which means I think this is $1 trillion company. I think that 40 goes to $1 trillion. That's 25x. You put $1 million, you're going to make 25. You put $10 million, you're going to make 250. You put $100,000, it's going to be a $2.5 million investment, because if Facebook's worth $1 trillion, if Google's worth $1 trillion, if Amazon's worth 2, if I think Apple's worth 3, whatever the number is, this is going to be $1 trillion company, because the people that ran Twitter, they don't know how to make money, and Elon knows how to make money. He's going to create different chips.
Right.
Whether it's going to be, you want a blue chip to get rid of the bots, $4.99 a month. You want an additional, benefit to do this, $19.99 a month. And you want the ultimates, it's $100 a month. He's going to make money off of Twitter, and he's going to bring so many different ideas that nobody's even thinking about. Most people think Tesla is a car company. It's a battery company. That's why he doesn't like selling Tesla, because he knows Tesla's going to be a $10 trillion company, and he knows he's going to be the first trillionaire in the world. He's probably 2 to 5 years away from being a trillionaire. This guy's going to be a trillionaire. We're going to have a trillionaire within the next 24 to 60 months. But Twitter, by this guy running it, I have a feeling this thing's going to go to the roof, because he ain't going to slow down. FYI, more and more I listen to him, he may be the most annoying person to anybody that doesn't like freedom of speech, to anybody who loves control, because you can't do nothing to this guy, okay? AOC goes to sleep every night. Everyone has nightmares or dreams. She goes to sleep every night about a man named Elon Musk. She has nightmares about him every flipping night. And it's non-stop. It's going to keep happening, because this guy's not going to slow down. He's not going to be somebody that's going to sit on the sideline saying, oh, okay, let me take it a little bit easy this week. No. You say something to him, he's coming back at you. And he's got a bigger mic. And that mic is Twitter. I think Elon is a very different kind of guy. He's a once-in-a-generation type of guy. But he'll be the first trillionaire the way he's going right now. So, folks, if you hate billionaires, I don't know what you're going to do to trillionaires, because one is around the corner.
We need to be more in an environment for us to be able to have these types of discussions, and it's happening. Big part of it is because Elon bought Twitter. If Elon doesn't buy Twitter, these types of discussions don't take place. Imagine if Elon doesn't buy Twitter. Where the hell is Tucker Carlson right now?
Nowhere.
Actually, think about it. Elon doesn't buy Twitter. It's coming up 1 year anniversary of Tucker getting fired. If Elon doesn't buy Twitter, where is Tucker's content going?
Valuetainment, hopefully. No, good call. But you're right. He's not out there.
I'll just say one thing. I fully agree with you, PBD, that we need more conversation. We need more dialogue. We even need more debate.
Who is the #1 customer service representative in America today? It's a guy named Elon Musk. He's worth $200 billion. He reads what people say. You can't get any Fortune 500 CEO to come out there and talk to its customers. They're locked up in the 80th floor all the way to the top, and they don't go around talking to people. This guy's like, okay, let us look at, good point, we'll work on that. It's not a bad idea, let us look into it. So, what do you mean by this? This is a revolutionary type of guy.
Do you think it's a bad use of his time to be responding to people in that way?
No, not to
How
him.
long should he do it for?
You have to know, if you're as curious as he is, you know people who are using your product know more about the product than you do. You only have one lens, okay? You have to get other lenses that show your blind spots. Like even right here, right? Okay. He's doing what he's doing, but that guy's gonna say, look at the camera this way, move that. Can you see that the logos, we're not getting sponsored? How about this? Musk has that.
Do you know what it is?
It's very, very unique.
It's like Conor McGregor saying that he's going to fight again. Who knows if he's going to fight again? Because his brand is wrapped around him as a fighter, not him as a retired fighter. Elon answering 5 tweets a day is just a reminder, I'm listening. I'm here, and this is my company.
Like an attention lottery.
That's it. That's it. So not only tweet at me, but know when you're tweeting on Elon's platform. You're driving a Tesla, that's Elon's car. And all of us are literally invested in Elon. If some random person bought Tesla, I'd probably take my money out of Tesla. I am invested in Elon, and Tesla is my ability to invest in Elon the man. If there was a stock that was just Elon stock, and it kind of wrapped up all his different ventures,
we would invest in that.
If I told you Hyundai did more revenue last year than Tesla, you would probably... Somebody should go out there asking questions saying, who do you think had a bigger top-line revenue last year, Hyundai or Tesla? Out of 100 people, how many people think are going to say Hyundai?
90. Oh, I'm sorry.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what's the point? The market is simply wanting the answer to a question they asked many years ago. Is this a car company or is this a technology company? Now, no one knows the real answer to the question, okay? Nobody does except for one person. When Elon is asking for a $55 billion package, what's he saying, Tom? If I want to be driving value for this company, I need to know that I can make $55 billion. And Elon doesn't ask for salary. Elon is only asking for, not for the negotiations that I've seen over the years. All he asks for is, if I increase the company's valuation, I want this much money. So for example, he's probably asking, if I'm able to increase Tesla's valuation to $2 trillion, I want to get $55 billion. The average shareholder should say what to that? Yeah, of course, take it. Take the $55 billion, no problem, right? So this judge is getting in the way. I fully understand what the market's concern is to see if Tesla is going to become a tech-enabled company or not, if Tesla is going to go become a battery company that everybody else is going to use. You know how many people right now around the world are not asking him to use his batteries that he's setting up in America right now? They're going through him. That may take another 3, 5, 10 years until he owns all of it, right? Until he owns all of it. So for the people that are with him and are long-term thinkers, they fully understand what Elon is going through right now. For the people that are concerned, those concerned people are short-term investors that have to go explain to their clients that, guess what? Well, you know, maybe the better thing to do is, you know, Elon's going through a lot of things right now with Twitter and all this other stuff. Yes, there is a combination of the Twitter people that they fear that he controls Twitter. There's a combination of those people that he's too loud on his freedom of speech guy. There's a combination of the people that are waiting for this thing to become a tech-enabled company because the revenues are skyrocketing. There's a combination of the people that are wondering where's the truck, the cyber truck that we thought was going to be XYZ. And there's a combination of him being a mad scientist, which only a mad scientist could run a company to $1 trillion valuation. None of those guys there are alive operating the company. The only person there that's operating the company that started it from nothing to pretty much here, not nothing, too small to what it is here, it's Elon Musk. And on top of that, he runs another company called SpaceX. He runs another company called Twitter. He runs another company called Boring Company. He runs another, I can go on
Neuralink,
and on and on.
they just put their first chip in someone's brain the other day.
He's got 10 kids.
Wow.
So try to figure all that stuff. And he's a celebrity that's going to parties, that's going to gatherings, that's traveling to all these other places. I
love him.
5% a pretty good comp package for like a CEO. Like if you say, hey, you know, valuation increase and what we do here, we'll give you 5%. Is that pretty good?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I happen to know, I won't say it out loud, but we both know a prominent CEO that has been offered as much as 3 times that. What's 5% of $1 trillion?
50 billion.
Wow.
That's exactly the math I was doing earlier when I said 55 billion. He's saying I want to increase the valuation to $1.9 trillion.
I was taking it back to comp to people.
I have no problem with it. But the judge doesn't understand capitalism. The judge, all they understand is his tweets. The judge doesn't understand what it is to run a company, taking up calls at 3 o'clock in the morning and waking up at 6 o'clock to do a conference call on East Coast. No, you don't know the life of an operator.
It was actually a conversation I was having yesterday with a good friend. A guy says, you know, what do you do in a situation like this when you're taking over a company and you're Elon, okay? Do you fire everybody? They don't like working for a guy like you where you're not letting people work from home. You want people to be there every day. You want people driving. And all of a sudden, like, they see you as a dictator, Elon. They don't see you as a, what's the word, understanding, compassionate, empathetic.
Yeah.
Everybody knows when you leave at 2:30. Some people don't like that, but you know what else is the benefit of working with a guy like Elon? Here's what happens when you work with a guy like Elon. 5-10 years later, when there is a going public opportunity or an experience like that, and you're sitting there saying, babe, did you see how much money just hit the account? Did these people know we're like regular people? That's like a big check. Yeah, but don't act like you're worth it.
Yeah, so this is a great meeting where, Paul, let me give you my feedback about what's taking place here.
Nothing to see here.
But you have to. I asked Peter, I said, Peter, you ever worked with a crazy founder before? Not like this. Never seen something like this. I'm like, well, that's what's going to take. So as a jockey, I'm a fan of the jockey. Him being the jockey. The business, I thought Tesla, too many people who were fanboys, who thought that it's just because it's him, it's going to kill it. It's down 85% for the year.
Good
By
thing
the way,
I sold.
But the point is, it's at the right number right now.
Probably.
It's around the number it should be, give or take. Maybe it's still not at the number it needs to be.
Yep.
But long, if it's a long investment, I think it's a good long investment. I think a lot of people got killed last year. By the way, a lot of people made money last year as well. Citadel, Ken Griffin made $16 billion last year. You don't make $16 billion during a flat economy or even slightly down. You make it because you were shorting certain stocks. And some of the famous stocks to short last year, hence the company and the boy you love the most, your guy Elon Musk. Like, I've never been a fan of the product. I've never been one that has gone. And by the way, one of my best friends, every time he named his son Elon.
Wow.
Okay, that's qualified. Okay, he owns Teslas, stocks, all of it.
Yeah.
Total fan of that stuff. I'm not that camp.
Yeah.
What I do like is the following. Just so you know, when you leave this place, you best say thank you to Elon.
Okay.
You owe him a thanks. Okay. A big thanks. The topic of differences and all.
You said he was going to have to thank Elon for something.
Yeah, because without Elon, you and I wouldn't have tweeted each other. He's running Twitter right now. At the time, Elon Musk was worth $2 billion. At the time, people still didn't give him credibility, saying he's just selling an overpriced car. He's always late on his delivery. He wants to go to space. What the hell does this guy know about going to space? You have no clue what you're talking about, this Elon. You guys are in love with a guy that's going to lose everything. He's a nobody.
Mm-hmm.
This is 2012, 10 years ago. 10 years later, he goes from $2 billion to the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, $300 billion. Forget about the Saudi people. $300 billion in America, right? $2 billion to $300 billion. What's the moral of the story? Here's the moral of the story. When he sold PayPal sold for $1.5 billion. His net was 180. Do you know what he did with that 180? Do you know the story or no? Out of the 180, he put money in 3 different companies. And I'll give you the companies, and I want you to tell me which one you think he put the most money in. Solar City was one. Tesla's another one. SpaceX is another one. Out of the 180, which of those 3 companies do you think he put the most money in? That's what I thought as well. But he put $100 million in SpaceX.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. He put 70 in Tesla and 10 million in Solar City.
Wow.
But he put $100 million in SpaceX. Most people don't know this. He put less in Tesla than SpaceX.
That's interesting.
Why
Very
did he?
interesting.
Because growing up, his obsession was when he read that book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy or something like that, he's been wanting to go to space since he was a kid. When you do what you do because it's the love of the game, you can't stop.
Right.
Musk is playing a game. He's not in business. People don't realize this.
Do you think Elon is choosing the right enemy with Disney and all these, other brands and advertisers?
Yes, because I think Elon is choosing his vision over wanting to cave to these guys who have ESG money from BlackRock, from State Street, from Vanguard, and he's telling them, no, I don't need your money. There's power in saying no to sponsorship. Can you imagine a guy comes and says, I'll give you $1 million for you to do a 1 minute whatever, and I need you to do this. And you say, no, I'll give you $2 million. Brother, you give me $20 million, I'm not going to do it. You know how much power there is in the no? You know how much power there is in a guy to say, don't do it.